Hey everyone, it's the Newbie Brew coming at you for the first time. This is the first video I plan on doing in a series of videos documenting my process of fermenting mead and other beverages. I decided to take on mead because I'm very fascinated with old practices, as this was probably the first fermented beverage, being honey and water, well basically a honey wine. Drank by the Norse people in Scandinavia. Correct me if I'm wrong here, but I find that very interesting. So what we have right now is a mead I'm working on. You also see in the back 2 batches of ginger beer that I'm working on. Basically, what I'm just gonna show you what I have here. I made the mead first. I actually wrote down the ingredients and somewhat of the process on these little note cards here next to each one. For the mead, though, I used 3 pounds of pure clover honey, 1 gallon of spring water, 1 box of sun-dried raisins, 1 orange cut up into 8 pieces, and then I use Lalvin D47 white wine yeast. It's a sort of a champagne yeast. I was told it brings out the honey and makes it a little more sweet, as opposed to a bread yeast that gives it a very earthy flavor. So basically, you might be asking yourself, why am I showing you this underneath my bathroom counter? Well, I chose this spot because it's a very nice dark place around room temperature. I have a thermometer in here as well, as you can see. It's reading at about a little above 70 degrees, which is perfect, which is just about room temperature here. You want this because the yeast is affected by light, and that can actually slow down the fermentation process, and I want it to be a pure brew, a very nice brew, a very nice fermentation. I don't want anything getting in the way of that. I have this carboy here labeled mead. So basically, I'll walk you through the steps of what I did. I basically started out with the honey and the water, and I boiled it for a little bit until it combined, and then I added the oranges and the raisins into the carboy. This is a simplified, explanation of it. Of course, I can go into more detail, but I don't want to waste your time. Basically, what I did first was sanitize. You probably hear this a lot if you're getting into home brewing. Sanitization is everything. Really, it really is, because the thing is, you don't want anything else growing in there besides the yeast. Like any bacteria, fungus. No, that'll ruin your batch, and then, you waste your time making your brew. So I think it's important to really take the necessary precautions before you start your brewing, because it makes it so much more worth it in the end. I used iodophor, as I marked on each of these, just to make it clear. Iodophor is a iodine-based sanitizer. I actually don't like it that much. It has a little bit of a reddish hue. It's actually in the sanitizing solution right now, but it faded a lot. And I think I'm probably gonna go get an Easy Clean next time I go to the home brew supply store. But it works great. Make a bath out of it. You put in a little bit. You follow the directions on the whatever sanitizer you get, and you follow it, and then you sanitize basically everything that comes in contact with your brew after you boil it. And if you don't boil it, it's always good to play it safe and sanitize it even before you boil it. That's what I did, because I don't want any bacteria or any germs, anything getting into the brew that could get infected, that could ruin the batch. And then, I wasted 4 months, fermenting it, just to have bad mead. And mead's supposed to be very good. I've never actually tried mead. This is all just a trial process here. So I'll just show you basically what's here. So here's the honey and water solution. I added the oranges and the raisins. The raisins are actually pretty cool because they gather a bunch of CO2, and then it floats to the top, and then it loses it, goes to the bottom. It's fun to watch. Well, that's another thing to bring up. Fermentation. If you're not new to fermentation. You probably know this already, but if you are new, this is what it's about really. Yeast reacts with sugar and it gives off carbon dioxide and alcohol, ethanol, basically. So that's what I'm doing. I mean, all yeast does the same function. It's just certain yeast isolates certain sugars, it does certain things to it. I don't really know the science of it that well. I am just a newbie brewer, as my username suggests. I just want to share my brewing ventures with you all. And hopefully you can stay tuned as I post more videos and update you on this process. So basically, here we go. The oranges and the raisins and the honey all have sugar in them, which the yeast is eating and emitting carbon dioxide. Now the carbon dioxide is going through this bung here into this airlock I have, which I took the cap off because I set up a blow-off tube, because in the first couple of days I had a lot of krausen. I think that's how you pronounce it. Basically the foam that generates after a really active fermentation. It was going up in here and it was getting in the top, and it was really ugly, and it was getting on the floor, and I really wanted a solution, and I looked online and a lot of people suggested using a blow-off tube. So that's what had happened. Is the Ci2 goes up there, goes in this tube that I of course sanitized. It's actually an old Camelback tube. I found an old Camelback. It's food grade. You want to get a food grade tube. That's it. And then the CO2 goes from there all the way here into your sanitized solution. Sanitized because, of course, you don't want anything getting in through the tube in the water, infecting the water, getting into this. It seems unnecessary, I know, but you want to go to the extra mile really to make sure that your mead is properly stored and not contaminated in any way. So as you can see here, as I look at this, this carbon dioxide is actually coming out of this tube in bubble form, and it's coming out about two a second, as I can see, like bum, 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 bum. So you can see that there, which is pretty cool. I'll try to focus on it. And that shows a very active fermentation. The yeast is still eating the sugars and emitting carbon dioxide and then the ethanol and the alcohol in the bottle. And I actually don't know how long I'm gonna have this being here for. I've heard from 6 months to 1 month to 3 months. It's all just gonna be a learning experience for me. And you guys can join me on the ride. Here, let it focus. There we go. Join me on the ride, and that's it really. For the mead, I'll move on to the ginger beer. I'll move this out of the way. All right, over here, I have 2 batches of ginger beer. I'll get the cards out and read them to you, so I can't forget what I put in them. Now, the first batch is 1 cup granulated sugar, 1 cup water, half cup water, 2 tablespoons of grated fresh ginger. That makes the gingerette, which is the ginger syrup, that then goes into the ginger beer fermentation, which about an 1/8 teaspoon of active dry yeast add to it, 3 tablespoons of freshly squeezed lemon juice, 7 cups filtered water, and I put them both in these 1-gallon plastic bottles. A lot of people are saying that plastic emits chemicals that ruin your batch, but this is really short term. You only keep the ginger beer in these for about 3 days. So that isn't a big problem for me. Also, for the first batch, the yeast was added after acclimating it in a solution of water for about an hour. Now the second brew, this is what it has. Both, of course, were sanitized with iodophor. 9 cups spring water, half teaspoon of cream of tartar, a 1/4 cup fresh ginger, peeled and grated, a 1/4 cup fresh lemon juice, 1 cup cane sugar, and 1 teaspoon active dry yeast. I noticed that these are 2 different recipes I found online. I will link them in the description as well. I will also link the recipe for this mead, or the video I found that made this mead. Very helpful. Of course, I don't know if any of these are gonna fucking work, honestly, because there really aren't any reviews of them. But it's all learning experience. It's anything you can do that will further your knowledge. It's better to fail a bunch of times than to get a great brew each time and never know what it's like, what not to do, really. So off to ginger beer number 2. First I combined everything, and then I covered for 3 hours, which is different than this, which I just put in all at once. This I combined everything, including the yeast, and I covered for 3 hours, even with the ginger still in it, even with the lemon in it and the ginger root, as well as the yeast dissolved into it as well. And then basically, as you can see, the one on the right, the number 2 batch, is doing outstanding. It's fermenting at a way faster rate than number 1. In fact, you can actually tell by the amount of carbon dioxide it releases, because since I said before, the CO2 gets released from when the yeast eats the sugar, as well as my alcohol. And since I put only an eighth in this one and a full teaspoon in this one is emitting a lot more carbon dioxide, a lot more active. I will actually post a video updating you on this process, as well as testing out each one, which one I recommend, which one I suggest you start with. Again, I'll put the recipes in the description. So for right now, I'm gonna put, well, actually, it's also good to point out that whenever when you start things, you want to label things. You want to make sure you put the date. You started it April 2nd, 2016. I started this around 6 p.m. This is April 3rd, around 8 p.m. And this is about 9 a.m. on April 3rd as well. And a lot of people measure the gravity, which I highly recommend. It's always good to, have all your facts right and have all your statistics right before you start your mead or your ginger beer or anything you're brewing. And it's good, just to keep writing everything down. Because, you want, if you like it, you want to know what to do, do it again. If you don't like it, you know what not to do next time. Where was I? All right, so I'm going to open up the bottles a little bit just to let out the CO2. Unlike this, the CO2 does not have somewhere to release after, because this does. This has somewhere to release after. But this is just stuck in the bottle, which is sort of problematic in a way, because it could explode on you. That's why I recommend opening them at least 2 to 3 times a day. So I'll open the first one here. As you can see this. This will be the 3rd time I opened it today. And you see that tiny little bit of air coming out, that carbon dioxide, little tiny. So I'll now do number 2. I expect this one to be, as you can see, it's already kind of filled up with a lot of carbon dioxide, and it's very tight. This one, not that tight. I can do that. I can't do that to this one. All right, I'll try this out. Jesus, that was a lot of carbon dioxide. And you see it's fizzing now because it was released, it's aggravated, but that shows very, very active fermentation. So as this has not that active fermentation, it could still be a good ginger beer, but it won't be as carbonated as this one, and this could actually yield some alcohol content as well. That's really interesting. Yeah, it's still coming too. Wow. That's crazy. Wow, yeah. So I actually have an app on my phone. Basically, it's a timer. Basically, I put in the date. I'll put a link for that app in the description as well. I put a date for each of these in my phone so I can look at it whenever I can, just to show how long it's been brewing. Example, like on the mead, for instance, it's roughly around 2 days. The ginger beer is roughly around 1 day. Wow, I can just smell ginger right now. That was very strong. I'm gonna put these back in. Just, I label. It's good to label everything. It's good to sanitize everything. It's also very good to measure the gravity and the alcohol potential before you do that. If you're into that, which I highly suggest, go on a good, forum that talks about it more. I suggest Reddit r/homebrewing. That's where I, found inspiration to make this video, as well as start it in the process. Have a good temperature, have a good spot to put it where it can ferment, in a dark, warm-ish place, but not that warm, more like room temperature. But I guess the main thing to take away from this video is that anyone can start home brewing, even if you're a noob like me, because all you need to do is just follow a recipe. Hey guys, sorry about that. My video cut out. I apparently don't have enough space. I deleted a video so that I have enough room for just a quick ending here. What I was gonna say is that if you had to take away one thing from this video, it's that brewing may look really scary to you, may look terrifying, look really complicated, but it's really actually very easy. The yeast just on a basic level, the yeast mixes with the sugar, it eats the sugar, and then it farts out CO2 and alcohol basically. It's really fun. It's a good investment. It saves you money, time. It's a good hobby. And I guess if I had to give you some advice, it's just to jump into it head first, not knowing what to expect. If you fail, you fail. If you get a nice brew, you get a nice brew. But at least you know what to do, and at least you know what not to do. Just like anything, if you're into it, just start doing it, and soon you'll reap the fruits of your labor. This mead may taste terrible. These ginger beers may taste like utter shit. But the only way to find out is to do it and find out what works and what not works. I think this concludes my mead video and my ginger beer video. If you like it, like the video, please leave a like, comment, and be sure to subscribe for more updates on my brews in the future, as well as some reviews on the mead, as well as the ginger beer, which will come up very soon. That looks like it. Happy brewing. This is the Newbie Brew.